Well, hello everyone, this is Jeff with another unboxing video. This is another model I've been waiting to get for some time. I ordered this back in February and it has arrived last week. This was a pre-order from Collectible Jets, which is where I get most of my models. They do a good job with their shipping and everything like that. So here we go, pretty snug fit. So this is a British Airways 747-400. If you guys follow my channel, you might remember that last week I did another video which was the same exact aircraft but the Gemini Jets version. That was a flaps down. This is a InFlight 200, which is also the same as Aviation Retail Direct, and they also do a really nice job. I flew on BOAC when I was a little kid and in the early years of my flying experience, so I got to fly on some of the 747s, the classic 100s, and InFlight and Aviation Retail Direct have models of the classic 747s that I've flown on. So this is actually my fourth BOAC 747 model, but this is, of course, is the 747-400, which is an active aircraft. British Airways celebrating their 100th anniversary this year, so harkening back to 1919 when they were first formed. And this was a particular aircraft flew flight BA 100 to Heathrow from Dublin. It was flown to Dublin on February the 5th of 2019 for a repaint, and then flown back to London Heathrow on February the 18th of 2019. So good to have this back in the fleet. It was in the original Chatham Dockyard livery, and now it's wearing the BOAC livery, which it will wear until its retirement in 2023. So they're slowly phasing out their 747-400s. So, but let's have a look at the box here. Aviation Retail Direct are much like JC Wings, where they do a nice job with the boxes. Gemini has a pretty basic, boring box, if in my opinion, except when they do the flat top lid, but they don't do very many models in that. So we have the British Airways logo, the Speedbird, the BOAC. This is Aviation Retail Direct or InFlight model IFBA 100, and the registration G-BYGC. Let's have a look around the box here. Not a whole lot going on there other than that on the sleeve. Officially licensed product of Boeing, which is always cool to see. And there she is. So as I mentioned, this is the Heritage livery, recognition of the 100th anniversary of the formation of Aircraft Transport and Travel Company, who was formed in August 25th, 1919, and flew the first international flight from London to Paris. AT&T went out of business shortly after that and were taken over by another company, which later merged with 3 other airlines to form Imperial Airways. That was in 1924. Speedbird was later designed by Terry Lee Elliott in 1932 as the logo for Imperial Airways. It's designed to represent a bird in flight, and does so quite nicely. It was also carried on by British BOAC, and then also with British Airways, who now uses their stylized ribbon as their current recognition of the Speedbird. So it was nice that they were able to retain that look, because I think it's very characteristic of the original aircraft, and also kind of harkening back to the early days of these airlines. And of course, the Speedbird is the current call sign for British Airways. So whenever you listen to British Airways on the air traffic control, you'll always hear them be listed as Speedbird, which is really kind of cool. So BOAC was formed with the merger of Imperial Airways and British Airways Limited. British Airways Limited was a short-lived company also, running for about 4 years from 1935 to 1939. And when those two formed, they formed BOAC, and that was in 1939. Now, after BOAC was around, they were in business until 1974, when BOAC was merged with British European Airways, or BEA, to form British Airways. So British Airways has 4 heritage liveries. They've got 3 747-400s, one in the BOAC like we see here, one in the Nagus, and one in the Landor. So I've got the 2 Speedbirds, one from Gemini, one from InFlight, and I've got Landor and Nagus coming from InFlight as well. Those are also on pre-order from February, so hopefully they'll show up sometime. So it's kind of nice to have these. The BEA, they have an A319, which is in the BEA livery, which is also really kind of neat to see. So I'm one of the London Heathrow spotters on Facebook page thing, so you can kind of see these liveries flying in and out pretty regularly. So let's have a look at the stand here. Always doing a nice job with the stand, these guys. Oh man, that is so cool. This is what we live for, and I think if other companies were to do that on all their models, it would just make them look so much nicer. I mean, look at that. It's got the BOAC, British Airways. Look, a little cleanup there. 1919 to 2019. Boeing 747, 1/200 scale. The Boeing symbol here. British Airways logo here. That is really, really cool. This is metal. Nice big pad there for the stand. This is a different looking stand than I've seen before. It looks like it has a little tip there, which is also foam. So I think that must be some additional improvement. These ones don't allow you to adjust the position of the aircraft, but they are really nice. So protective plastic on the top. And don't see any separate gear, so we also, Aviation Retail Direct also has a card that comes with their products, which is nice to have on the shelf to display as well. That's really kind of neat. That's pretty slick. Always like those nice little features that really just add to the model. And Aviation Retail Direct or InFlight, same thing. Don't usually have removable gear. They just have it's in there all the time. So let's have a look at this beauty. .747, just such a beautiful aircraft, such a great model to have. Let's start on the starboard side here. We have the nose cone, but no discernible markings for where the radome is, which normally there would be. The radome is a cover that sits here on the nose, and it has equipment for the ILS and the weather radar and such inside of it. Got our nozzles for our washers, windshield wipers. British Airways has their partial registration always above the cockpit window on all our aircraft. Got the R1 door. Got our markings for the cargo loading door here. It's not real clear, but they are there. Here's our angle of attack sensors, illumination light, partial registration on the nose gear doors there. That beautiful BOAC, British Overseas Airways Corporation. Now on the original aircraft, the lower portion here would not be painted gray. It would be just polished aluminum. It would be shining. Continue on down the fuselage here. British Airways aircraft have the emergency cut here and emergency markings on the exterior. They're well executed there. The drip rails above the doors. Come back to the tail here and we see our BA 100 there. The British Airways logo. 1919 to 2019. The registration G-BYGC. This is, of course, a Boeing 747. Originally designed in 1969 and before. The 400s didn't come out until the 90s, so we've got the vertical stabilizer there. High frequency antenna. That's what this little mark is. There used to be high frequency antennas on the classic 747s, which came off the tip of the wing. They were like little spikes, but they moved those now to the vertical stabilizer, the leading edge there. This is the intake for the auxiliary power unit, which is mounted in the tail. Nice markings on the rudder and the rudder trim tab. Gold of the Speedbird looks really nice and bright. Tail illumination light and our horizontal stabilizer and the elevators on the tail there to allow the aircraft to pitch up and down. On the tail we have the exhaust for the auxiliary power unit. A nice view there of the 3D effect of the rudder and the rudder trim tab. And then there'll be a strobe light also on the 747. Let's have a look at the other side here. Again, we have our BOAC in nice big letters there. Flag carrier of the United Kingdom, so we're going to have the flag on there as well. Angle of attack sensors. Static ports are actually here, located just in front of the wing root. The L1 door with the BOAC just above it, which is true to the original aircraft and true to the other models I have as well. The upper deck here. The upper deck on British Airways aircraft is all business class. And then we've got our access door for the upper deck. 747 has a standard staircase, rear facing staircase, whereas the classic 747 that this is based upon have a spiral staircase, but you got more room with a standard staircase than a spiral. Here's the L2 door. We've got a light, which is the engine inspection light. Here's our L3 door. And nicely done again with the markings, the cut here and emergency markings. I think that's really nice to have. And then again our British Airways logo, the 100 in recognition of the 100th anniversary, and the registration. And I guess this is also an intake, but I wasn't sure if the 747-400 has a dual intake for the APU, because they are on the opposite sides. But that may be the case. and then the horizontal stabilizer. Nice work with the paint here, the nice silver finish on the forward portion, and then the aft section is painted, so I think that's really kind of neat. Let's look at the top of the aircraft. We've got our pilot's emergency escape hatch door, the anti-collision beacon. Anytime the aircraft is operational or getting ready to move, it's going to have this light on, blinking. There's also one on the underside. We've got numerous antennas on the top: VHF, air traffic control, traffic collision avoidance system antennas. Some of them are marked. Usually the VHF ones are the only ones they show, but sometimes they'll have just them marked out so you can see where they are. But these are VHF antennas. This is an ADF antenna, these two little black marks, and these are raised up so they have a nice 3D look to them. I don't know if you can see that. Auto direction finder antenna. This is the SATCOM. This is your Wi-Fi SATCOM. There's two SATCOM antennas. One of them is for the aircraft to reach ground communication systems. This is your broadband. So if you look at aircraft, or probably even pictures of this aircraft when it's first introduced, it won't have this box on it. And that's either the Cobham, and there's a few different brands of SATCOM antennas for broadband. This allows communication with the internet and Inmarsat with from the cabin and also the cockpit. I think this is the emergency locator transmitter antenna. And then we have that beautiful golden speedbird there. And they've actually got a nice color on this antenna here. Look at the underside. The gear does pivot. It does have the jewel lights in it. The nose gear door. We got another VHF antenna. It's a little out of position. Just be very careful in terms of bending that back if you do have one that has that, because it will likely break off. These are the Naca Ducts. These are high flow ducts into the air conditioning system, emissions control system, environmental control system, excuse me. These AC packs are located in here, so these are the exhausts for the AC packs. You can imagine they generate quite a bit of heat. We've got nice 3D effect on the doors for the body gear and the wing gear. Also the second anti-collision beacon. A hole for the stand. VHF antenna, also spiral painted like the one on the forward. And UHF antenna. Pressure release valves. Another antenna here, I think this is also VHF. These are the doors which enclose the auxiliary power unit, which can be open to allow technicians to gain access to it. We see nice work on the underside of the elevators there. See the lower side of the flaps, the flap track fairing. These are the flap track fairings. These just hide a worm gear that spins, and that's what extends the flap. My other model of the BOAC I got is the Gemini with the flaps down. So it's really super cool because you can really check out the size of the flaps on the 747, which are quite large. They're triple slotted, so they extend quite a ways. The lower side of the aileron, we've got our registration G-BYGC. The fuel dump valve. This little triangle is a vent for, there's a wingtip tank which captures vapor from the main tanks in the wing, and it accumulates in this tank, and they use that vent to expel the fuel that's in it. Usually they'll do that on takeoff, where it can dissipate just very quickly in vapor. Here's our wingtip. This allows the wing to pass through the air without creating so much drag due to wing vortices. This is running the RB211 Rolls-Royce engine. That's the 524G variant. Puts out 59,000 pounds or a little bit more of thrust. And they've nicely done with the BOAC on the engine, which was on the original. Back then it ran the JT9Ds, which were a lower powered jet engine. Actually, it was a turbofan, but the very early versions. But these are high bypass turbofans, so they generate a lot more thrust. Probably about double what the original aircraft had. But that was necessary to get good range. So nice work on the nacelle and the pylon. Got our radius warnings. I think the gear on the InFlights is always very good. I like the detail, although they do have some limitations. These ones do roll, but they do not tilt, and that's a typical case for InFlight. So I wish that they were able to do that, or had different configurations like the Gemini does, but they still make a very good model. But these good gear is all metal and rubber tires. Our other wing looks really good as well. Got our green navigation light here on the tip there, and red on this wing. I think eventually we'll probably see jewels taking their place. This aircraft does not have, or this model, excuse me, does not have the jewels in the wing gear, which is a feature I really like. Gemini didn't either, but my JC Wings 747-400 does. So JC Wings is kind of in the lead in my book in terms of how they're doing their lighting. We see our spoilers and our flaps, our aileron. Nice work on the paint work there. Looks really good. And likewise over here. So, very well executed model. Okay, so I'm going to see if these engines spin. I see no movement at all, but they do look like they moved a little bit, so if I poked them with something, I'm sure they would turn, but I kind of like to stray away from that because I've actually broke a fan blade here and there doing it, so at least I got scarred early, so I try to use a can of air these days. Great looking model. Love the BOAC colors. Love the whole retro concept. So BA operates to 160 destinations, British Airways. They have a fleet of 270 aircraft. They have 72 aircraft on order, including 12 of the new A350-1000 and they've just received their first one a couple days ago, so it hasn't actually even flown its first revenue flight yet. They've got 18 of the 787s coming, and they also have 18 of the new 777 coming as well, which those aircraft will probably be the ones that will take over the routes that this aircraft and its 35 other 747s of British Airways are currently flying, and they're going to retire all of them by 2023. So we won't see them very much longer. Virgin and Thai, KLM still operate the 747 as well. So does Lufthansa. There's a few carriers carrying passengers still, but eventually we'll probably see all of these disappear. So as I did mention, this model was a pre-order. So if you haven't got it on the way, I'm not sure if they're still available, although I would guess they would be. It just kind of depends on what market they're in. I think for the European and the UK market, this will sell out for sure. This is an InFlight, which is a British company, so I'm sure that these will get mopped up pretty fast. The serial number on this actual aircraft is 25823, and the line number was 1195. It's a 747-436. And it was delivered January 19th, 1999, and was first flown on January 11th, 1999. So it's just reached its 20th birthday, not 6 months ago or so, a month after it was returned from the paint shop. The length on this aircraft, 230 feet 10 inches. The width, 211 feet 5 inches. That's the wingspan. The height is 63 feet 8 inches at the tail. Maximum takeoff weight, 910,000 pounds. Wow, 412 tons. Unbelievable. Range was 7,670 miles. This aircraft has 14 first-class seats, which is in the front section of the aircraft to the L1 door. Then it has business seats, which, as I mentioned, the entire upper deck is business class. And then from the L1 door to the middle of the L3 and 4, so actually here is all business class. So from here to here, that's a huge business class section. And then they have economy plus, which is here. So business class, they have 86 seats, and then economy plus, they have 30, which is from this door to the halfway point. And then the rest is economy. There's 145 of those seats, and that's a total of 275 passengers, which is not a great deal considering the Boeing 747 can handle over 500 passengers and in certain configurations, but obviously they've got most of this devoted to the business class, which is obviously their big money earner. So, but this is a great model to have. I'm looking forward to putting it on the shelf next to the Gemini, or maybe even on a different shelf. I'm not sure yet. I'm running out of space as it is, so we shall see. But let me know if you're going to get this model or what you think of this one. I think it's going to be a great addition to anyone's collection. So if you have a chance to pick up the InFlights, they're a great model, as identified with the stand and the card and the features of the sleeve. They have some nice features, which is a cool thing. So I definitely will recommend them. But Gemini are right up there as well, and JC Wings also, because they have customized stands. Gemini, I think, can do a better job with their lighting and their stands, and that'll really put them into the lead there. But they all make some great models. So hope you enjoy this video. Give me a like if you do, or subscribe if you're not already, and we'll see you next time.